At the end of the school year, after we got engaged, we worked for a couple of months during the summer, and then in the middle of August, we took off for Kansas, and to get married. And a student at the school loaned us his car for 10 days because we didn't have a car. And we drove to Kansas and to get married. One of the problems was that the person who Eloise thought should marry us wasn't able to marry us. So we had to arrange with another man from Oklahoma.
Yes, I wanted our camp director that liked me. I mean, he was, I'd worked for him, and I wanted him to be the one to marry us, but he had another wedding that day, and he couldn't. And so we took another preacher that we didn't know very well, and he didn't know us at all. And so anyway, I was going to tell you first of all, though, about getting my wedding dress. Across the street from Emmaus Bible School was a really nice store called Gilmore's, and they would in the springs put all their wedding dresses that people had tried on too much or something, and they'd sell them really cheap. And so the girls loved to go over there, and even some of them that weren't getting married would go over and try on wedding dresses. And so I went with a friend and tried on wedding dresses, and I paid $25 for my wedding dress for getting married. So anyway, the wedding was, I would have to say, a little bit of a disappointment, because the man that married us did not do a good job. All the neighbors from there who were not believers were there, and he spoke on Absalom, and it was sad, but we got married.
He would, all through the sermon, he would say, "Oh, Absalom, my son, Absalom, my son." And he would talk about David's love for Absalom, and then he would wail again, "Oh, Absalom, my son."
That's enough.
And he kept saying
That's
this
enough.
all the way through
That's
the sermon.
enough. This is Kansas.
And it was a really hot day. There was no air conditioning in the church, and the candles all bent over from the heat, and it was kind of a crazy whole deal. And then we went back to the farm for the reception, and the reception was at the farm.
And we just had punch and cake, and Aunt Lois had made some special candies and stuff. But that was it. That's very much what anybody in our area would have had for a wedding. So, it was a hot day, so we had chairs out in the lawn, and it was a nice reception.
And then we went for our honeymoon to a little town about 20 miles away, and we just got a motel, and it was a third-rate or a fourth-rate motel. In those days, there weren't big chain motels with standards, and this was just a local kind of a place that, and we just stayed there one night, and then we went back to the farm the next day.
Can I tell about the phone?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I tell about the phone ringing the first morning after our wedding? And they said, "Hello, is this Mrs. Dyer?" And I thought, oh, I guess it is. And anyway, it took me by surprise. I thought Mrs. Dyer was his mother. So anyway, it was a surprise that was my name from then on.
And then we packed up all the stuff, the gifts that we'd received, put them in the car, and then headed back to Chicago. And we drove. One of the concerns we had was leaving all the gifts in the car overnight if we stayed in a place. So we just slept in the car on the way back to Chicago, and so that nobody would steal all of our gifts. So. And of course, we didn't have any money, so we couldn't afford to stay in a motel. So we slept in the car, went on back to Chicago, and got back to Chicago.